All right, welcome everyone to the 21st Century Men podcast, where we break down life's biggest questions one chapter at a time. And today we're diving headfirst into chapter 40, Yoga for Real Men, from the book The 21st Century Men. We've got your sources all lined up, and today's mission, should we choose to accept it, is to unpack why yoga, this ancient practice, could be an absolute game changer for, well, any guy out there, regardless of where you're at with fitness or what you think about yoga right now.
Yeah, the chapter kicks off with a really powerful quote, and it kind of sets the stage for everything that follows. It says, yoga is not about touching your toes, it's what you learn on the way down. So right away, we're hinted that there's a lot more going on here than just, being bendy.
Totally, yeah. And the author, Dean Pullman, who's a yoga instructor himself, he presents yoga in this chapter as this like a truly holistic discipline, something that engages your body, mind, and often, even touches on a spiritual dimension. And he really emphasizes that these benefits, they're not just for the guys who are already super fit or athletic. Whether you're spending hours at a desk, hitting the gym regularly, or somewhere in between, Pullman argues that yoga can make a real difference in your physical performance, how sharp your focus is, and just that overall feeling of well-being.
What I found fascinating was the sheer range of benefits that the chapter covers.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond the obvious stuff like, getting more flexible and stronger, it talks about yoga's potential to help you sleep better, lower stress levels, and even have a healthier heart, which is measured through something called heart rate variability. That's basically the variation in time between your heartbeats, a key indicator of good cardiovascular health. And get this, it even suggests that yoga could lead to, wait for it, more satisfying sex.
Okay, now you've got my attention. But one of the most encouraging things right off the bat is that Pullman really emphasizes how accessible yoga can be. He's not saying you need to make some drastic lifestyle change or anything. Even just setting aside 10 minutes a day, that can be a really powerful starting point. He talks about different ways to get started, from online programs, which are super convenient, to the live experience of Zoom classes or local studios. The main takeaway is to find an instructor and a style that you really click with.
Yeah, it's not about forcing yourself into a box, right? It's about finding a practice that feels right for you and your needs.
Yeah.
And one thing he tackles head on, which I think is so important, is this misconception that yoga is just stretching. And he uses a great analogy. He compares it to lifting weights. So just like you lift weights to build strength, you practice yoga to become more limber. And stretching is just one of the tools in that process.
Right. It's not the end goal itself. It's a means to an end. And this chapter really breaks down the barrier that yoga is only for the young and flexible, which I think keeps a lot of guys away. He makes it clear that yoga can be adapted for men of all ages and fitness levels, as long as you're working with a qualified instructor who can modify poses for your specific abilities. It's all about meeting you where you are on your fitness journey.
And I thought it was really interesting, the historical perspective he offered. I mean, think about it. The typical image of a yoga studio today, at least in the West, it tends to be pretty female dominated, right? But historically, yoga was actually practiced exclusively by men. It's kind of funny, like men are almost reconnecting with this practice that was once their own.
Okay, so let's dive into the heart of what makes yoga so beneficial. Pullman lays out 5 key unique benefits that contribute to overall fitness and well-being. And the first one he really emphasizes is the importance of breathing. But we're not just talking about, the automatic process of breathing in and out. He's talking about how conscious breathing can take your practice to a whole new level, way beyond the physical postures themselves.
Right. And he talks about it in terms of developing a relationship between your breath and your body's physiological responses.
Yeah.
We all breathe without thinking about it, but yoga teaches you to become incredibly aware of your breath and actually control it. And by focusing on the inhale, the exhale, even that little pause in between, you start to understand how your body reacts to your breath and how you can influence it through conscious breathing.
And through this practice, you can actually learn to use your breath to improve your movement, find a deeper state of relaxation within the poses, and even maintain a sense of calm when you're really challenging yourself physically. And it's amazing how he points out that mindful breathing can also help release built-up muscle tension. It's like having this portable stress management technique with you at all times.
Exactly. It's not just about getting the pose right. It's about tapping into your nervous system and finding that immediate stress relief and focus that you can take off the mat and use in your everyday life.
So the big takeaway here is that improved breathing through yoga, it's not just some nice side benefit of exercise. It's actually a fundamental skill that can significantly reduce your overall stress, sharpen your mental focus, and help you be more present and engaged in your daily life. life.
Yeah, it really is. And the second benefit the chapter digs into is practicing mindfulness, which is basically about broadening your awareness through that combined focus on your breath, how your body feels, and the movements you're doing.
And the chapter makes a really interesting point that mindfulness, much like physical strength, takes consistent training. And yoga provides this really effective structure for that mental training. It's about cultivating that state of being present in the moment, letting go of, dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
What I found fascinating is how the actual act of doing the yoga postures, the asana, that's the Sanskrit word for yoga poses, it naturally demands your presence. You're focused on your alignment, your balance, engaging the right muscles. Even a simple pose like mountain pose or Tadasana requires you to be fully present with your posture and your breath.
And then, as you progress to more dynamic and challenging sequences, that need for focus just intensifies. You can't really be thinking about, that awkward conversation you had earlier or that deadline looming later in the week. The movements themselves require your full attention.
And just like with breath work, the benefits of mindfulness go way beyond the yoga mat. It starts to seep into other areas of your life, allowing you to be more present and engaged in everything you do. So you're not just training your body, you're training your mind to be present in the moment, which can make life a lot more enjoyable.
Right, absolutely. All right, the third benefit Pullman highlights is targeting those core and hip muscles. And I think this really hits home for a lot of guys, especially with the prevalence of desk jobs these days.
Yeah, it's a huge one. And he emphasizes that yoga offers this really valuable way to build strength in those areas that are often neglected, which can be crucial for preventing back pain, knee problems, hip issues, sciatica, all those things that can come from sitting for too long.
And it's interesting, a lot of guys might assume they're working their core and hips enough through weightlifting. But the chapter argues that if you don't have that foundational strength in your deep core muscles, you might actually be overcompensating with your knees and lower back during those exercises, which over time can lead to injuries.
And he specifically cautions against the no pain, no gain mentality, which I think is something a lot of guys need to hear. He says pain is often a sign that you're lacking the strength or mobility for a certain movement.
Yeah.
And those nagging injuries we often get, they often come down to weak hips or a weak core.
So the beauty of yoga, when done correctly, is that it naturally strengthens those crucial core and hip muscles. And those positive effects, they ripple out beyond your yoga sessions. You might see improvements in your other workouts, feel more stable and comfortable in your body after exercise, and even just feel better at the end of a long day at work.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to the fourth benefit, slow, controlled movements. And the chapter makes the case that this is a fantastic way to develop coordination, improve body awareness, and build strength regardless of your current fitness level.
It's a really interesting point, especially when you compare it to so many other workouts that are all about speed and reps. And Pullman actually suggests that that focus on speed can often lead to bad form.
Yeah, that's a good point. And he says it's through that deliberate, slower pace combined with focused attention that you really refine your technique. And that attention to form is absolutely key for preventing injuries in the long run. Yoga often uses these fundamental human movement patterns like squats, lunges, bends, twists, but at a slower pace, so you can really focus on how you're moving.
And that slower movement, it also really helps develop body awareness, which is basically being able to really sense and feel different parts of your body and how they're moving in space. And it also improves muscle awareness or motor control, which is your ability to actually engage specific muscle groups. He even talks about things like dead butt syndrome and a lack of core engagement as areas where yoga can be super helpful.
And what's really cool is how he ties this back to building a foundation for a healthy, capable, and injury-resistant body. It's not just about going through the motions, it's about learning how to use your body more efficiently and safely.
Okay, and then the fifth benefit is supporting both flexibility and endurance. The chapter highlights that yoga postures, those asanas, they offer a whole range of fitness benefits, including balance and mobility, alongside flexibility and strength.
And that's a big distinction for yoga. Unlike exercises that might just target one area, like, weightlifting mainly focuses on strength, or stretching just focuses on flexibility, yoga blends them all together. So it can be this amazingly well-rounded workout that could actually be your main form of exercise if you wanted it to be.
And while you might get sore after a yoga session, especially when you're just starting, it's usually not that intense soreness you get after, lifting heavy weights. Instead, the chapter mentions that most people actually finish a yoga workout feeling more energized and with a greater sense of well-being.
And there's this really interesting point about the immediate mood boost you often feel after a session. He suggests that this positive feeling actually helps you stick with it because it creates this positive feedback loop, which is so crucial for building habits.
All right, so those are the 5 key benefits the chapter lays out. So for our listeners who might be thinking about trying yoga, what are some practical tips that Pullman offers for getting started?
He gives some really good advice. For those who are new to yoga, he often recommends starting with online programs, especially those designed specifically for men. And these programs usually have really detailed instructions on proper technique, which is so important early on. And it gives you that convenience of practicing at your own pace, in your own space, and you can build confidence before maybe heading to a studio.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially if you're a little hesitant to walk into a class for the first time. But what about if you do want that in-person experience?
If you're more of a studio person, he recommends checking out local yoga studios. Many of them offer intro deals, so you can try different styles and teachers, but he really stresses that the instructor is even more important than the specific style of yoga. So look for instructors who understand that men often have different physical strengths and challenges compared to women, like, maybe less flexibility in the hips, but more upper body strength, and who really emphasize proper technique. And he actually cautions against just copying others in the class and stresses how important it is to listen to the instructor's guidance so you don't overstretch or injure yourself.
That's great advice. Now, what about gear? Do you need to buy a bunch of stuff right away?
Nope, not at all. He encourages starting simple, using things you probably already have at home. A towel can work as a mat, a sturdy book can be used as a block, a belt, or even a dog leash can act as a strap. He says you can invest in a good yoga mat later on if you decide to stick with it.
And if you do decide to make yoga a regular thing, he recommends setting up a dedicated space for your practice at home. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a clean, quiet corner where you can focus.
One of the most motivating things he talks about is the immediate positive effects you can often feel after a yoga session. Unlike some workouts where the results take a while to show up, with yoga, you can often feel the benefits right away, both during and after your practice.
Yeah, he explains that the combination of strengthening and stretching helps release tension in your muscles, takes pressure off your joints, improves your posture, and even activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your body's rest and digest mode, which helps you relax and de-stress. It's like a built-in reset button.
Totally. And he really encourages people not to be intimidated by, the images they might have of super flexible yogis. He says there are modifications for almost every pose, so it's accessible no matter your fitness level. He even mentions chair yoga as an option for those with limited mobility. The key is just finding a resource or instructor you feel comfortable with.
So his recommendation is to start small, maybe aim for just 1 or 2 poses a day, and try to do it around the same time and in the same place each day. And he emphasizes that consistency, combined with the positive feedback you'll get from your body, will make it easier to progress over time.
And he ends the chapter with a really powerful message, which is to start soon. He says the biggest regret people have with yoga is not starting earlier. So it's a call to action to just take that first step.
And to help you take that first step, he even provides an initial yoga sequence with 8 beginner-friendly poses, complete with how long to hold each one, and emphasizing the importance of resting on your back between each pose. The sequence includes mountain pose, warrior 1 on each side, standing side bend and back bend on each side, plank, cobra, child's pose, reclined twist on each side, and reclined figure 4 as a more accessible alternative to pigeon pose.
And if you want even more guidance, he directs readers to his website, www.manflowyoga.com, where you can find tons of information, including a follow-along video for those beginner poses. It's a really great resource for anyone who wants to get started safely and effectively.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Chapter 40, Yoga for Real Men from the 21st Century Man, we really hope you've gotten a better understanding of just how beneficial yoga can be, especially for men. This chapter is seriously a valuable resource for anyone looking to improve their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. We highly recommend checking out the book and reading the whole chapter. Dean Pullman does an amazing job of making yoga approachable and showing how it can benefit men in a really practical and relatable way.
Yeah, I agree. It's super accessible and motivating. He makes something that can seem intimidating feel totally doable. So yeah, definitely check out Chapter 40, Yoga for Real Men.
We hope this deep dive has gotten you curious about yoga and given you some ideas you can start using today. Remember, even small, consistent steps can make a huge difference in your overall health and well-being.
Absolutely. And maybe give those beginner poses a try. You might be surprised at how good you feel afterwards.
Join us next time as we continue our journey through the 21st Century Man. We'll be tackling Chapter 41, Why Work with a Personal Trainer? Until then, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep being the best version of yourself.